Welcome to Leadership Live with Anton Gunn, and I got a question for you. What do you want to do? Do you want to be a baller, shot caller, a brawler? Do you want to be dipping in the bins with a spoiler? Now, I know you didn't expect to come on to a live to hear Anton Gunn quoting rap lyrics from a song called All About the Benjamins. But I think it was the most appropriate song for me to talk about what I want to talk about today. And that is, do you know the difference between a baller and a shot caller when it comes to your workplace? Now, when I say the difference between a baller and a shot caller, that song, All About the Benjamins, came out in 1997, the same year that Notorious Big, AKA Biggie, was shot and killed in California. The song was on Puff Daddy's album called No Way Out. Okay. Now, I don't want to talk about P. Diddy, his awful behaviors, his prison sentence, or his crime. I don't want to talk about any of that. And I'm not going to talk about any of that. But what I am going to talk about is this song as a metaphor to what might be your biggest problem in the workplace today. Now, when I say what might be your biggest problem in the workplace, is that you got two types of leaders in every organization. Two types. You might have additional color and context of these leaders, but I believe that from an executive level on down, there are two types of leaders. Leader number one is the baller. The baller is exactly what the word sounds like. If you think about sports and basketball or football player, a person who is really good at the game, they're really good at performance, we call them ballers because they can just straight up ball. Now, growing up in Virginia, playing basketball as much as I played in Hampton Roads, we had a lot of ballers, some very famous ballers. Allen Iverson was a baller. Alonzo Mourning was a baller. J.R. Reed was a baller. Joe Smith was a baller. P.D. Sessom was a baller. Ronell Williams was a baller. Antoine Carr was a baller. Greg Melvin was a baller. Now, I know I'm naming people that you don't know, but what am I trying to indicate to you? I'm trying to indicate to you that there are a lot of people who have skills to perform. And in your organization right now, you might be that leader who has skills. You know what you went to school to learn. You know what you have learned over time. And so when it comes to achieving your goals, your KPIs, in every other aspect of your work as a leader, you would be classified as a baller. You would be classified as a high performer. You would be classified maybe as an MVP, the most valuable person on the team, because of how you perform. You are a baller. And every organization has ballers at every level. I bet if I asked you right now to type into the chat the name of somebody in your organization, on your team, who you would consider to be a very high performer, you would have no shortage of names to put. And some of you who have a lot of confidence about your work would put your name in the chat. You know that you are a baller. Ballers are important to have on the team. But then you have the second type of leader in your organization, and that is a shot caller. The difference between a baller and a shot caller is that a baller is relied on for their performance. They're great operators. They're very competent. They get things done. Shot callers, on the other hand, are the ones who are relied on for their strategic thinking and their clarity about what the next step should be. Now, my proverbial question for you is, do you want to be a baller or do you want to be a shot caller? That's my question for you. Because if you just want to be a baller, then maybe I'm not the right person to be talking to or listening to. Because I have an expectation that everybody that I know is competent, capable, skilled, and are able to perform at the highest level. I'm not putting the training wheels on to teach you how to be a high performer. You should already know how to be a high performer. You've been in the workforce, in the game for long enough that you should actually know how to perform, how to play the game. And I'm not talking about a game to game people out of anything. You should know how to perform in the core aspects of your business, how to deliver on the KPIs, the goals, the objectives, the strategic direction, all of those things. You should know how to do those things. You should know how to be a baller. But my challenge for you is I'm asking the question, do you want to be a baller or a shot caller? Because we need you to be a shot caller. And when I say we, your organization, the people that you lead, the customers, and the patients that you serve, they need you to become a shot caller. And you don't know how to do that. Because if you knew how to do that, you would already be in the big chair. You would already be the most influential and impactful leader in your organization. Not the CEO, you. You need to learn how to be a shot caller. So today, I want to spend a few minutes laying out for you the 3 biggest problems that ballers have that keeps them from being a shot caller. And then I'm going to give you 3 action-based strategies of what you need to start doing right now, that 12 months from now, that when we're having this conversation, that you have accelerated yourself out of the mindset and out of the position of only being a baller, but you're now a shot caller in your organization. So that's what today's conversation is about. Question is, do you want to be a baller or do you want to be a shot caller? Can't be both. You got to move from one to the other or stay at one if you don't want to be the other, however you want to put it. But I thought it was appropriate in my hip hop lens of mind to use the song All About the Benjamins, the opening line, the opening question from All About the Benjamins. What you want to do? Do you want to be a baller or shot caller? Don't be a brawler. We can leave that for another day. But this is about the baller and shot caller. So let me talk about the problem. I want you to first understand the first part of the problem that you are experiencing and dealing with as a leader is that you are a high-level baller. You're an operator, a performer in the workplace, not a performer as in you sing and dance and you shuck and jive, but no, I'm talking about you get stuff done. You solve problems. You're a fixer. You know, they can put you in charge of any operating department or any department. They can give you any kind of problem and you're going to solve it. They give you the Rubik's Cube, you're going to have it solved in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, because you're a solution person. You get it done. You get it done. But the problem is you're not seen as anything other than an executor. You're not seen in any other way other than someone who gets it done. And your smarts, your capabilities, your intellect, your strategic mindset is not seen or observed by anybody on the C-suite. It's definitely not seen by the board of directors. So the board doesn't see you as a shot caller. They see you as a baller. And if you want to get out of that world, out of that lens, out of that lane of being only seen as someone who executes and not someone who should be strategically involved in every big conversation, that is a problem. So let me tell you about a strategist. A strategist is a person who has total clarity about the biggest picture of the organization. These are the people who can see around corners, who don't just see what's in front of them, but they know what's coming. They're thinking about what's coming. They have an analysis about what's coming. They've done the market intelligence, the research, the understanding. They read. They're well-read, well-read. They read lots of books, publications, attend industry conferences. They do all of the things to understand what is coming, and they bring that level of insight back to the organization. They bring it back to the team. They bring it back and they offer opinions about it, perspective about it. What they don't do is just keep their head down and putting up shots. They just don't keep executing. Like, think about, and I use basketball analogies a lot because basketball is something that I love and understand. But can you name the top 3 ballers in the National Basketball Association today? Can you name the top 3 ballers in the WNBA today? Can you name the top 3 ballers of all time from your perspective? I would love to see what your list is. If I was naming the NBA top 3 ballers of all time to me, number 1 would be Michael Jordan. Number 2 would be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And number 3 for me would be Magic Johnson. Those guys are ballers. They get it done. WNBA, I could give you a whole different list. Cheryl Swoops, baller. Lisa Leslie, baller. And the newest and the biggest on that list is Asia Wilson. And why am I laying out basketball analogies and basketball people? These people will get it done. You need a basket, they'll get it done. You need a point, they'll get it done. You need a rebound, they'll get it done. Teams rely on these people to win games. But most people would not see them immediately as strategists. As a matter of fact, when some of them had the opportunity to be strategists later in their career coaching the sport, they didn't fare well. I mean, Magic Johnson had one small stint as the head coach of the Lakers, and it was fun and entertaining, but he didn't last long as a coach. We know Michael Jordan has never been a coach. I can't remember if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had been a coach, but I think he had at one time. Here is the point. It's a big difference between a baller and a shot caller. And that biggest difference is the shot caller is seen and known as a strategist. That's point number 1. That's your problem number 1, is that you're relied on for your competence, not necessarily for your strategic clarity. That's problem number 1. Here's problem number 2, and I'm going to be real clear and quick with problem number 2, is that when you become a high performer, sometimes you like to keep this air of mystique about you. Like, you just want to be known for your performance. You don't want people to know who you really are. Like, you don't talk a whole lot. You definitely don't share a whole lot. You might even say things like, I ain't trying to be friends with these people at work. Like, I'm on this team and I'm going to deliver, but I don't need to be friends with everybody. I don't want everybody in my business. I want everybody knowing about my background. I don't want my colleagues to know where I live. I don't even want them to know what kind of car I drive. I don't even want them to know anything about me, my family, my children, my siblings, where I grew up. I don't want them to know anything. They just need to know that I am getting this work done. They just need to know that I'm delivering. They just need to know that I'm the best person they have ever hired to do this role. That's the mentality of some ballers, that they guard themselves and cut parts of themselves off when they come to work. I only want to talk about work at work. I don't want to talk about home at work. I don't want to talk about family at work. I don't want to talk about anything about me at work. I just want you to know that I'm getting this work done and that I'm good at this and that I'm the best you've ever hired. That's what I call hiding in plain sight. That you're trying to hide who you really are from people. And why is that keeping you from becoming a shot caller? Is because a part of being a shot caller is being completely authentic to who you are. Because the people who get brought into the C-suite or into the boardroom as a potential candidate for the CEO position, people need to know who you are. They need to know what you're about, your values. They need to know how you see the world. They need to know how you think, how you treat your family, how you treat your children, how you treat your siblings. Do you have children? What does your wife do for a living? Like, all of these things are contextual things that you probably think that nobody at work needs to know those things. And that would be a normal, rational way to approach it. But I want you to know that if you want to be entrusted with decision-making authority across a large organization and you be in the senior most position, your board members are going to want to know those things about you. Your peers at that executive level are going to want to know those things about you. They're going to want to understand who you are, what makes you, you, all of the things. And so many executives, senior leaders who are ballers never become shot callers because they never open themselves up. Sometimes they feel like they're opening themselves up to ridicule or to, be exposed, or somebody to be all in their business. No, I'm not talking about any of those things. I'm talking about transparency that breeds the level of trust that is needed for you to be deemed a shot caller for this organization. Transparency absolutely breeds trust. And so many leaders are hiding themselves or preserving themselves or protecting themselves, holding up the guard, doing it, whatever, keeping people at an arm's length, stiff arming them, showing them a Heisman. Y'all know what I mean when I say showing people the Heisman. Trying to keep them at arm's length, feeding them with a long spoon. Those things are not helpful if you want to become a shot caller. You got to address the lack of authenticity in the workplace. I'm going to give you something to do about that in a second. Now, here's the third thing, as I'm getting ready to close here soon, is I want you to understand a big problem that a lot of ballers have is that they think their performance is going to equal a promotion. Like, I'll put it to you this way. If you are the highest performing revenue officer, let's say you're the chief revenue officer for an organization and you're hitting every goal and every objective, right? And you think that because I'm the highest performing revenue officer, they should promote me to CEO. No, they're not. Because if they remove you as the highest performing person over revenue and they put you in the CEO position, you know what that means? They won't be the highest performing revenue officer. They won't have that anymore. They won't. So I'm not telling you to not be a high performer. I'm definitely not telling you that. But I just want you to understand that just because you're a high performer, it will not necessarily lead to a promotion. Like, we've probably seen this scenario, I don't know how many times. I remember working with a large accounting firm. I'm going to just say it that way. A very large accounting firm, multiple state footprint. And they had a guy who is a fantastic accountant. And he kept all of his clients happy. He did all of this great work. He was killing it, bringing in new business, landing new clients as a CPA. He was doing his thing for his firm. And he got so good that they decided to promote him to manage all of the accountants. So he went from managing his clients to now being in a leadership role where he had to supervise all of the other accountants. And you know what happened? I want you to guess what happened. He failed miserably. His production, his personal production went down. Number two, everybody else was frustrated because he didn't have the strategic leadership skills required to be effective as the head of the department. Instead, his performance went down, his client work went down, and the organization's performance went down. So that's why there's a risk when you decide to put a high performer in a promoted position. It doesn't necessarily equal promotion. So this is why you have to understand that if you want to move from being a baller to a shot caller, there's some other things that you need to do to get to that new position. You can't stay in an operator mindset. You got to move into a strategy mindset. You can't keep hiding who you authentically are from people. You got to be transparent so people can learn who you are. And the third thing, don't think that your performance is going to equal a promotion, because it's not. But here are the three things you need to be doing every day for the next 12 months that will help put you in position to go from just being a baller to a shot caller. That is, you need to become a cultural strategist within your organization. Now, when I say a cultural strategist, I'm telling you, the same way you know the ins and outs of every product or everything that happens in your division, you need to have that same level of knowledge about the people inside your organization. So if you have 1,000 employees, you need to understand the breadth and depth of who those 1,000 employees are. All aspects of it. Like literally, what are the top 5 zip codes your employees are from? Where do they live currently? You need to understand what motivates people to come and work at your organization. Do people know your values? Do they know your mission? You need to understand the culture. Why am I telling you to understand the culture? Because when you come to the C-suite table, you need to be an ambassador for the whole organization, the people of the organization, not just the business that you know how to run, but the people of the organization. You got to become a strategist in your organization. So how do you do that? I'm going to give you something real simple to do. It's not easy. You got to want to do it. And here's what you need to do. You need to find 3 people every week that you can do a 30-minute one-on-one interview with. 3 people once a week for 50 weeks of the year. That's 150 employees across divisions, departments, units, sectors, like not just in the chain in which you work. You should already know those people because they work for you. But I'm talking about across the organization. And what are you doing in these informational interviews? You're getting to know who the person is. You're not asking them all about business. Who are you? Why do you choose to work here? What's the best part about working in this organization? If you were in charge, what's one thing you would do to make this organization better? What keeps you working here? Okay. What would make you want to leave? Asking some real basic questions to learn about the people who make up the organization. That's how you become a cultural strategist. The second thing you need to do is you need to develop a power map. I call it the big 3. And you might have the big 3 at 3 different levels. So it might end up being the big 9. So here's what I would like for you to do. I want you to write down on a piece of paper right now in your organization, who do you think is the most influential person in the company outside of the CEO? Matter of fact, make a list of the top 3 most influential people in the organization outside of the CEO. Write them down. Write those names down. Then the second thing I want you to write down on your board, on the board of directors, board of trustees, whatever you call the board leadership of your organization, who are the most 3 influential board members? We know the chair right now is influential, but who are the 3 most influential board members? You need to know who those 3 people are, and you need to know them right now. That's the level 2. And the third level is to ask you need to ask those 3 people who work in the organization, who is an unsung hero around here that everybody knows is an unsung hero, but they never try to get any credit. Why am I asking you to do that? Because if you can learn the people in your organization who are also ballers right now that people see as influential, but they never seek any credit, you want to build a relationship with all 9 of those people. Those 3 board members, the 3 most influential people in the organization, and the 3 people who are influential that everybody knows, but they're not looking for any credit. That's going to help you to build your power 3. And when I say power 3, what I'm just trying to get you to understand that relationships breaks rules. Not in a negative way, but in a positive way. How do you become an influential person and a shot caller? Is to know who are the most influential people in the organization, and most importantly, to have a relationship with those people. Which leads me to the third thing you need to do. The only way you're going to get an influential relationship with those people is to serve them first. Ask all of them, what can I do to help you? What can I do to serve you? And if you're unwilling to be in service to the people that are in number 2, those unsung heroes, the 3 most influential people in the organization, and the 3 most influential people on the board, if you're not willing to serve those people, then you know what you just told me? You have no interest in being a shot caller. You're comfortable being a baller. That might be okay for you, but it's not okay for your organization. It's not okay for your future. It's not okay for your legacy. And it's not okay for the impact that you should be having. But if you don't want to do the work, then I can't make it. But I just want you to understand that there's a big difference between a baller and a shot caller. Ballers are seen as operators. They hide in plain sight, and they think their performance is going to get them to the top. That's a baller. It's not going to help. A shot caller is a cultural strategist in the organization. They also are completely authentic and transparent about who they are. And more importantly, they know the people in the organization that they need to know to build a level of influence through service. That's the conversation for the day. So again, I'm going to close with what Diddy, Biggie, and Jadakiss, who actually wrote those lyrics, asked you, do you want to be a baller or do you want to be a shot caller? If you want to be a shot caller, then keep tuning in to this Leadership Live, because I want to help you to become the best leader possible so you can transform the culture of your organization and build it into an organization that not only people will be proud and honored to work there, but they're proud and honored to say that they work for you, that they work for a legendary leader, because that leader knows how to have influence and impact that changes the culture, builds the organization, and achieves every outcome. That's my focus. So I want to thank you for watching. Everybody have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next week for LinkedIn Live. Take care.